In conclusion, it's the shortest and sweetest conclusion I've had yet, which means it's only 32 slides. Okay, it's not quite 32 slides, don't worry. If you must assume something, then assume the very best about your clients, right? We tend to make assumptions that skew the wrong way. People aren't out to get us. They're not out to get us. They're out to help us. They're out to build us up. As Kay has thrown out to all of us multiple times over the past 3 days, everything works out for us. Everything works out for us, right? Assume the very best about your clients, please. And if you must assume, then again, assume the very best about your market. The only economy that matters is the one between your own two ears. You know, I picked that up from a local legend, and it's stuck in my head for a number of years, and it is too true. The only economy that matters is the one between your own two ears, and there may be a recession, absolutely. And you may choose to partake in it, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to partake in it. No, I'm going to focus on what is possible each and every day moving forward, and there's a lot that's possible each and every day. And again, if you must assume, then assume the very best about yourself. We beat ourselves up no end. We break appointments with ourselves. We break promises to ourselves. You know, we're horrible. I mean, I don't think there's anybody we treat quite as badly as ourselves. We would never treat our best friend, our mother, our cousins, uncle, sister. We would never treat anybody else the way we treat ourselves. But for some reason, we're kind of tough on ourselves. And, you know, don't believe that negative talk. I think the average human has almost 50,000 words of self-talk per day, and up to 80% of that is negative. Negative. 50,000 words, that's basically a book. That's a book, volume 1 of Be the Better Broker. That book is 50,000 words. Could you imagine if 80% of that book, 40,000 words of it, was all about how you suck, how bad you are? Who would read that book? Nobody would read that book. And in our minds, we literally write a book a day about how we suck. That's horrible. We need to change that around, right? We are pretty great at a lot of things. We're mediocre at a number of things, but we're pretty great at a lot of things. And the one thing that is so easy to be that much better at is just being kind to one another. And as I say, start with yourself. Assume the very best about yourself. And on social media, a lot of you know how I feel. Is it true? Is it positive? Is it useful? Do I know this to be true? Do I know this to be positive? And is it useful? If it's not positive, who cares if it's true, even if it is useful? You don't need to share it. Don't worry. If it's negative, the media is sharing it. It's getting pumped out there. The algorithm is sending it your way. You don't need to be a part of that train. So I took this picture of the toilet paper rack. You can guess when. I think it was like March 15th or something. And then I could have posted that. Oh my gosh, look what's happening. The shelves are clearing out. Ah! And then I walked a kilometer down the block to another grocery store that was far less crowded, and literally the shelves were stocked full. So which picture do you think most people would post? Right? I mean, if you're going to post something, post the positive one. Hey, if somebody's out there looking for this, this is where you can find it. Rather than jumping on the bandwagon of the other 90% of folks that seem to want to post the negative side of things. Regarding stress, the best sort of maintenance is always preventative maintenance. And again, I mean, I said it yesterday, but dudes, in particular, don't like to talk about things because we were taught a certain way to not talk about things, not express any emotions. I joke about my feeling, you know, singular, right? I mean, the best sort of maintenance is preventative maintenance. And when it comes to one of the most important organs in your body, I'm going to say it's your brain. And therapy is preventative maintenance. We deal with a lot of stressful situations ourselves. We deal with clients who are under immense pressure, and we get drawn into some pretty hectic, crazy situations, and we don't have anybody that we can unload any of that on. That's where a therapist really comes into play. because you can't talk over family dinner about a lot of the different things that go on. Just the confidentiality factor alone prevents that from happening. So be graceful and be liberal. Be liberal with the word no. Learn how to say no, right? Be ruthless with your time. Are you truly motivated to go and do this thing you've agreed to go do? Again, I bet you there's 3 appointments in your calendar next week that you can cancel. I know there are in mine, and I'm going to be tackling that tomorrow. I'm going to be cleaning up my calendar, especially the recurring things that are going on. And just to be balanced, be self-aware, and to be balanced in case anybody felt like liberal was a hot-button word, be conservative. Be liberal with the word no, and be conservative with the word yes. Be careful what you're committing to doing, because you make that appointment in your calendar 6 months out from now, 3 months out from now, and guess what? The day comes, and you got to deliver. You've got to deliver, right? I knew this day was coming a year ago. A year ago. Did I build the content in the spring? Did I build the content in the summer? Did I build the content in the fall? Heck no, I waited until Christmas Eve. And then I built the content all the way through the holidays. There's every chance I'll do that again next year. I was going to say no way. There's every chance I'll do that again next year because, well, let's face it. I mean, I have a full-time job that is more than a 9-to-5 job that takes up the bulk of my time. But it's not really a job. It's kind of a passion. I kind of love it, and that's why it takes up a lot of my time. But we're going to have a phenomenal time a year from now, and you can count on a lot of planning, advanced planning going into that for sure. And I hope you'll say yes to that. And like I say, that link, absolutely, open till midnight, open till 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to commit, commit. Are you interested? Are you committed? And ask more. Ask more questions. Ask better questions. And when you ask those better questions, pause. Note to self, pause. Count to 10. Let the person formulate an answer and listen to that answer. And then ask more. Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper if you can, right? And be ruthless, as I have said more than once. Be ruthless with your time. Be resolute with process and systems. Be detailed with all of your notes, submission notes, call notes, file notes. Be detailed. And invest. Invest in AI. Spend a couple of bucks, sign up for some of these AI sites, and start playing around and invest a little time in learning. Invest a couple of bucks. And how to use these different tools and build on all of this with your eBlasts, right? I mean, I think this is absolutely going to be the year of AI. It's going to be a very, very interesting year. And be cool, right? Stay cool in the face of threats, demand letters, and even the odd lawsuit. Stay on the high road, right? Stay on the road. Now be on the high road with even more notes and more checklists. The more checklists you have in your life, the less chance you're going to wind up with the threats, the demand letters, the lawsuits, and the more notes you'll be able to defend that much better. And be better, right? Be better today than you were yesterday. Be better tomorrow than you were today. That's one of my own personal goals. How can I improve? How can I improve? How can I push myself further? And be kind. The world loves a comeback. The world is a lot more forgiving than we realize. So be kind, right? Be loved. Last year, I shared the story of Meredith. Meredith, I mean, I want to be more like Meredith, right? Meredith trained hard. What did Meredith train for? She trained for a half marathon. That's what she was going to run. I'll share the story a little bit because I know for a fact some of you love this story. Why? Because you love these little tales of triumph. So Meredith trains for the half marathon. She enters the half marathon. She's in the half marathon. She's cruising. She's feeling good. She's thinking, wow, I must be halfway through this. And indeed, she was more than halfway through the full marathon when a guy on one of the little motor scooters came along and said, hey, your bib, I think you missed the turnoff for the half marathon finish. You're now on the full marathon course, but you're actually doing really well. Do you want me to see if registration can just change you over to the full marathon? And she was feeling so good because she had trained. She had made it difficult for herself during the training to the point that she was crushing it. And so the guy on the bike, it was actually a guy pedaling along, the guy on the bike pedaled out the final 13 miles of the marathon with her, and she won. She entered a half marathon, made a mistake, wound up running a full marathon, twice as far, 26 miles instead of 13 miles, and she won the thing. How cool is that? Winning the first marathon you didn't even enter. That's pretty awesome. And last year we talked about the fact that it was the guy on the bike really that made the difference, right? The person on the bike. It doesn't have to be a guy or a girl, whatever, the person. The person on the bike made the difference and kept Meredith going, right? Accountability is a huge factor. Encouragement is a huge factor. So who is your guy on the bike? Who's alongside you? Who's helping you? Who's encouraging you? And anybody who's trying to pull you back, you need to cut loose. You need to cut loose. You need to have somebody who's encouraging you along the way. And do we lead by example? Now, why did I put that in gray? Because what story do I really want to tell about that? I know I've developed a bit of a reputation for telling stories that tend to go a little bit deep, and I don't want to go there this time, all right? Maybe when we're in person I'll go a little deeper, but I don't want to go there this time, not quite as deep, but I will share this much with you. 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago now, yes, I got into a little conversation that turned into a bet over some drinks, and it was about taking a year off drinking. And the first guy tapped out basically after a week, the second guy tapped out after a month. I had a gentleman who I'd been friends with for a decade kick me out of his house because I wouldn't drink alcohol. It wasn't acceptable to be at his house for a house party if I wasn't going to drink alcohol. I've only seen that gentleman twice in the past 8 years, down from seeing him 100 times a year, probably. We were quite close for quite a while, actually, for quite a number of years. But I quit drinking and he quit me, which was kind of interesting. It was very interesting. And my whole thing was really, I like a challenge. And you know, we talked about Sober October at the time. It was the beginning of October, and Sober October. Like, you know, come on, 31 days. You want a real challenge? Quit something for a year, a full year. Go through all 4 seasons. Go through all the holidays and the birthdays and the anniversaries, and go through some different challenging times. That's a real challenge. And you know, you've gotten to know I like to make things difficult for myself whenever I can. I like to challenge myself. So that's what that was about. And so when the other two tapped out early, I didn't think, okay, I've won. I haven't won. They've lost, but I haven't won yet, not until they get the whole year in. And as I got to the end of that year, I was told by somebody important in my life, I was just better without alcohol. So I never went back. And then what's happened, interestingly, and I did put this in the chapter in the book, and you know, so it's out there, right? This story is out there. But here's the thing. Over the last 8 years, and again, even just over the last year, over the last couple of months, I have repeatedly had a variety of different people share with me how they have quit. Drinking is the most common one, or they've quit something else significantly challenging in their life because of the example that I set. I'm not out to set any special example around drinking or not drinking. Like, you do you, it's cool. Like, there's no pressure on that. I'm sharing this story with you to demonstrate that even when we do something that we don't really think is necessarily that challenging for ourselves or really that dramatic of a deal, people are watching. People are watching. And I was sitting in a bar, you know, a Japanese restaurant at the bar in Montreal about a month ago, alone. I was literally the only person other than the bartender and the cooks in this restaurant. No one else was coming in. It was 15 minutes before closing time. And I had a little bowl of food coming my way because it's only like 8 o'clock my time, so it was dinner time. And I'm looking at the bar and all these bottles, and I thought to myself, you know, I can feel the weight of the tumbler on my finger, on my ring finger. I can hear the clink of the cubes in that tumbler, and I can feel the burn of the vodka down the back of my throat and that sweet aftertaste of the Kahlua, because Black Russians were my drink, and now I'm salivating just talking about it.
God, I want to drink.
And yeah, you want to drink now, man? That's the Rob wants to drink now.
Man, I'm getting thirsty.
And I thought to myself, it's not like you had a big issue. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow in an overturned stolen car or something with a dead body in the trunk. Like, this isn't going to go off the rails. You could have a 2-ounce drink, and no one would know, except I'd know. So I couldn't do it, and that's a little bit of self-discipline, but where I will tell you that self-discipline has come from at this point in time is from the people who share their stories with me, which took years before it happened. 3, 4, 5 years in, that's when I started to get these stories. I started to get people opening up and sharing with me their own challenge, their own struggle, the own path they've gone down. And so in life, we're all leading by example. We're leading somebody. We're leading friends, we're leading family, we're leading followers on Instagram. You're leading people by example without even realizing it. Some of the people who reached out to me, I didn't even think they liked me. Like, I didn't think, I'd never seen a comment or a like on social media. We never really had a conversation at an event. I didn't think that they had the time of day for me, and they'd pull me aside and share their story with me, which I deeply appreciated. And then they'd try and give me some degree of credit for it, which I am unwilling to accept. Although I started to learn that I should accept that credit for it a little bit, because I am leading by example in that category. And so, yeah, I would know if I ever let up on that, and that's enough for me. But to spin it around to brokering again as well, because I try and bring everything back to brokering, because all conversations lead back to real estate. When you get into brokering, if you're newer in this business, you're 1 year, 1 month in, 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, it can take years before people in your social circle will say, I recognize you now as someone who is an expert in financing. I recognize you now as someone I would like to work with. I had someone share with me not long ago, it was 9 years they've been in the business before one of their closest friends chose to work with them. That's how long it took for one of their closest friends to decide to work with them. So people are watching what we're doing, what each of us is doing. People are watching you, people are watching me. So what kind of example are you setting, right? That's really the heart of the whole thing. What kind of example are you setting? Insert funny gif here to break tension. Okay, well, I didn't go that deep, so I don't have a gif to insert here, but note to self. And that is a joke. I didn't really forget to put the gif in. That's the slide. I really created that as a slide. One of the final slides I want to share with you is, again, one I created about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's sort of like, the tracking of life. Like, where is life headed, the trajectory? Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. It's never really quite that amazing, and when it is, it doesn't last long. And oh my gosh, everything's going to hell in a handbasket, everything's going to be awful. You know what? It's never quite as awful as we think it's going to be, and even when it is, it doesn't last that long. And remember, the worst day in Canada is still pretty much better than the best day in just about any other damn country in the world. And I know I'm a little biased. Because, 51 years in Canada, I'm biased. But I'm biased in a way that millions of other people the world over are. They want to come here. They want a piece of what we got. We have it pretty darn good. We have so many resources at our disposal to allow us to excel and achieve, including one another.